Hello and welcome to Public Conscience, the anti-corruption program produced by the Progressive Impact Organization for Community Development, PRIMOG. I am Chidozie Ogbonnaya with Adaobi Obiabomo.
Thanks for joining us.
On Public Conscience, we seek to evolve a corruption-free society by drawing government and citizens' attention to corruption reports and issues for prompt democratic actions against them. We also promote integrity by amplifying the rare cases of the display of honesty by public and private individuals. We appreciate the MacArthur Foundation for supporting the production of this program.
On today's program, we will be reflecting on the hashtag #EndBadGovernance protest and the paucity of good governance in Nigeria, which is believed to be one of the root causes of the protests.
Nigerians in some parts of the country hit the street from August 1, 2024 to protest bad governance and hunger. The protest, which was planned to last for 10 days, is now on its 7th day, but not without human rights issues, including the death of protesters, attacks on journalists, vandalism of government infrastructures, looting of public and private-owned facilities, and reports of crackdown on peaceful protesters. In some cases, at least 30 journalists have faced attacks while covering the End Bad Governance in Nigeria protest.
President Bola Tinubu addressed the nation earlier this week, voicing out worries about the fatalities, the damage to public property, and the looting that took place against the assurances of peaceful protests. President Tinubu underscored the economic reforms his government has implemented, including the elimination of petrol subsidies, the discontinuation of multiple foreign exchange regime, upward review of minimum wage for workers. The president also detailed various initiatives geared towards economic growth and social well-being, including the compressed natural gas (CNG) initiative aimed at lowering transportation costs, amongst others.
Although President Tinubu's speech on the protest packed kudos and knocks, most of the critics were of the opinion that the address was silent on profligacy by political leaders, high cost of governance and corruption, which are averse to good governance. PRIMOG is vehemently against violent protests, vandalism, and every form of looting of private or public assets by protesters. We also oppose security agencies attacking journalists and peaceful protesters. Today's program will seek further entrenchment of good governance, which continues to elude the Nigerian society. And for you out there, what do you make of the government, the hashtag #EndBadGovernance in Nigeria protest so far? Do you think the government has gotten the message? Why do you think good governance remains a big challenge in Nigeria? Did President Tinubu's address following hardship protests meet your expectations? And which of the demands put forward by the protesters would you want the government to expressly address?
Lots of questions begging for answers, but be ready to join us through our phone and text messages during the conversation. The WhatsApp phone line to send your message to is 0902 265 6167. That is 0902 265 6167. Please indicate your name and your location when sending your message. This number is for messages only.
Please begin to send your messages as soon as possible to 09022656167. That is 09022656167. We will give out the numbers to call shortly.
If you just joined us, the spotlight is on the attack on journalists covering the hashtag #EndBadGovernance protest and deficiency of good governance in Nigeria, which is believed to be pivotal to hunger and bad governance protests across the country. Core elements of good governance include transparency, integrity, participation, accountability, responsiveness, rule of law, and the absence of corruption and wrongdoing.
And joining us live to reflect on the hardship protest and the shortfall of good governance in Nigerian society is a human rights lawyer, Mojirayo Ogunlana. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much for having me.
We are also pleased to have the presence of the General Secretary of the Nigerian Guild of Editors, Dr. Yobosa Owujiaren.
Good morning.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much.
Gentlemen and lady, you are welcome to the program.
Thank you.
All right, let's start with Mojirayo. I know you've been very active and vocal about the protests. Let's have your own assessment of the protest so far.
Okay, so I think I was one of those who actually, or I still do believe that protest is one of the measures from which citizens can make government and the politicians be aware of their responsibilities to the people and to hold them accountable. And of course, when you look at the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, it is very clear that the Constitution actually guarantees peaceful demonstrations. And that has always been one of the, how do I put it, the counsel that we give. Go out and do a peaceful demonstration. And there was something that started happening, and I noted it from the beginning. You look at Thursday when the protest began, and we were all focusing on the southern parts of Nigeria. For someone like me, I wasn't really looking at the northern part. If I was going to look at the northern part, I would just be thinking about the FCT. But I was looking at the angle of the south, and I saw that people started trooping out, from Lagos, and you could see that they were organized. They were trying their as best as, as much as possible to make their grievances known. And then you could see the orderliness. Unfortunately, by the end of the day, we could see that there was a contrast between the southern part of Nigeria and the northern part of Nigeria. We saw that for a place like Kano, I'm not talking of Gombe, because Gombe was one of the, northern states that you could see that they were organized. There was a lot of crowd and they were organized. So Kano brought another angle to the protest that was not even, how do I put it, was not, I can't use preempted, that was not foreseen. And then I started asking my question, what was the underlying situation in Kano that made it different from whatever was happening all over Nigeria? And so I think that is one thing that the president missed in his, in his consideration of whatever speech he was talking about. He wasn't looking at the part that Southerners came out and they conformed with the rules. You see women, you saw a woman flying around, if you see it on Twitter, a woman carrying an empty pot to show that we are hungry. We are particularly hungry. We are oil-producing, we are an oil-producing country, and we are not, we don't have the oil. We have to suffer to even get this particular fuel that we say, okay, we are producing. Do you get it? Mm-hmm. So it was coordinated, to my own perspective, very coordinated in the South.
Maybe because the protest didn't have faces, known faces, or people who would take.
What do they mean by it doesn't have faces? There were people who applied to the FCT minister, for instance, to say, we are coming to the Eagle Square. We would like to use the Eagle Square as citizens of Nigeria. That was a legitimate request.
Was anybody taking responsibility of that in Kano? And that's another question.
Okay, no, that should be one question. That what was happening in Kano was, I'm still saying, I'm still, how do I say it? I'm still out of context when it comes to Kano.
But
and it was looking more. It was looking more like
why we have lots of out of school children. Because for me, that's
what I was going to go to. Because I see that the easiest way for protests to not go the way they have to go, there are just two things. One is hunger. Then the second is education. Now, if any of these two are lacking, just let's foresee that there will be a problem. And education became the tool. Like, you could see that the lack of education was the problem in Kano. Because if people are educated, they wouldn't go ahead to loot Bosun's new building in Kano.
The government building, not Bosun.
Oh, well, yeah, because
the printing press was also there.
I understand that it's the government's, but you know that this is the guy, trying to show that, okay, we can bring another dimension to technology and, digital aspects to technology. So that's why I just mentioned Bosun's building. Okay. Removing everything and vandalizing it became another, became another opportunity for the president and the politicians to see the issue from that perspective, the northern issue. That why were people vandalizing? If you are hungry, in fact, I saw a police truck that was allegedly to have been packing food from a warehouse and things and all that. And, somebody was trying to bring down a jerry can from one of the trucks and they threw it at him. And I was like, what is going on? What is going on in Kano?
So this reinforces a lot of concern by a lot of Nigerians that the society is not on the right path. And when you have a society that you have many out-of-school children, like Adot mentioned, we are just at the point of any little tip of can get every place.
No, Kano gave credence to the issue of bad governance. That is what we should just end with.
Let's get to Dr. Iyobosa. She has given her own analysis of what she thinks transpired and all of that. But what does it underscore to you, the protest? Were the demands or are the demands of the protesters germane?
And in addition to that, what this protest means to democracy?
Well, like you said, if you're talking about protests within the framework of democracy, people, have that right, to exercise, their view whenever they are aggrieved, whenever they are not satisfied with the policies and program of the government. And the only way they can be expressed that is through protest. And the concept of protest is that it will be peaceful. It will be peaceful, and in a way, you can also protest, using social media platform, march, on the street, So at the end of the day, the whole concept is our peaceful aspect of that protest. I think for those who wanted to express their grievances about what is happening in Nigeria today, talking about the hunger, the unemployment, the poverty, the lack of good governance in the last 1 year under President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, not just under President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, started even since 1999 where we have these democracies, was to be able to say, look, we are not happy with what is happening in Nigeria. There's hunger on the land. The government should be able to do certain things that will resolve some of those issues. I think that was the concept of the protest and those who wanted to go out to express themselves. Of course, before them, there was this fear going by our history, and that some street gang, some hoodlums might hijack the protest, and some politicians might also capitalize on that to also push their own political agenda, and that was the fear of so many people. But my argument is that you can't say because people hijack that people shouldn't be able to express themselves. People should be able to express themselves. And that was the whole idea. But if you look at the protest, like she rightly said, in Lagos, it was very peaceful. Peaceful because most of the leaders came out. Even when some people were trying to behave funny, and you could see the leaders directly there and say, look, this is not what we want to do. This is what we want to do. And at the end of the day, they were able to manage it in Lagos. In Benin, it was like a carnival. People rented a disco and they were singing, dancing, and they were able to make their point. In Rivers, the same thing. In Delta, Warri to be precise, and Ughelli, it was peaceful, But what happened in Kano for me was surprising. Kano, Kaduna, Katsina, became so violent. And like you said, if you look at Kano, for example, they don't have culture of peaceful protest. They don't have that culture. Probably because of the level of poverty, the level of lack of education in that state, bad governance, and it's a product of bad governance over the years. No, it didn't start in the last 1 year. Over the year, the people abandon their people. They believe that they don't need to send them to school, and that they can only use them for political actions when the time comes. So over the year, they abandon their people, and what we are seeing in Kano today and some part of the north is as a result of that bad governance that we have witnessed over the year. So I wasn't surprised about that violent nature in Kano. They don't have that culture.
So we just find ourselves reaping what the society has.
Now talking about whether the protest has achieved its aim, and I keep on telling people, I said the fact that unlike before, where the government see us as their own servant, and they don't bother about our actions. But you could see that the government, you could see the panicking measures that the federal government is now taking to start addressing some of those issues that we are raising. For me, that is an achievement.
Okay.
That's an achievement. And the fact that President is also making an effort to explain what he has done and what he's doing to address some of those issues Nigerians are raising is also an achievement. Just yesterday, the Controller General of the Customs said, look, in the interim, most of the food items that will be imported, rice and all that, will not be, they will not charge them for duties free. So which means that in the next few days, this rice will start coming and it will be very cheap. So, and that's a response. That's an achievement, responding to the protest. So the whole idea was to, a peaceful protest so that Nigerians can begin to address the feelings of the people. And that was the whole thing. Some people talk about the president's speech, whether it was, for me, it was badly written speech.
Yes.
Even the intention was to let Nigeria know what he has done and what he's also doing to address some of these issues. But the speechwriter did a very poor job. And at the end of the day, it was as if the president was not empathic. It was
nonchalant.
It was nonchalant, and it was not really responding to the feelings of people. That he was arrogant about it. He wanted to see himself as a strong man and all that. But this idea of also saying those who hijacked the protest, who now make it look as if the criminals were behind the protests. And he said, look, those who are behind it, even other security agencies have also confirmed that they will punish. Just like what is happening in UK.
Yes.
It was peaceful, but at the end of the day, some street gang hijacked it to the extent that even the Prime Minister even described it as violent thuggery. And he smoked, and he was also very tough when he was talking. I said, look, those who were behind it will be punished.
So it's like a wave of protest across the world. And
across the world.
There's that propensity
Venezuela,
that it will
everything. There's protest
I feel like we are entering another renaissance.
Exactly.
The way we enter the state of enlightenment is as if something else is in the wave. That's what I'm
So hunger can wake up our senses and change our state
what are you
of
talking about? Hunger breaks down your self-control. It breaks down everything
about
about
you. It's not just hunger. All over the world, people are becoming very active,
aware. Aware.
The social media is also contributing to it. People now know that, look, they must be part of government. They must participate. And the only way they can also participate is to use social platform to also begin to canvass their view and all that. And it's really creating that awareness.
But for us in Nigeria, some of the protesters were they called out the attention of the president. But at the state level, did we also see that? How accountable are the state governors and also the local government chairmen?
No, those are, you've raised some very cogent, how do I put it? You've raised an issue that I think that we really sometimes we miss out. For instance, we have the Senate president making some inflammatory statements towards the protest, something that shouldn't even be happening. But I love the fact that the Nigerians' attention was drawn to that, and they were, addressing it. You can see a coalition of CSOs addressing, the way he went about it. Now, I don't see as much the heat on governors, but of course, if you look at Kano and the northern states, you know that they were focused on the government houses. They knew where to go. For instance, I heard that they were in Kaura, is it Daura they call it? Daura, and they went to the former president's environment or district. So it shows that those were, they were more, it was even looking more like they were more focused on noticing that this is a result of your bad governance. But in the south, we see that what they were just about was focus on federal government as a whole. I would have said this if they also, address directly their governors, and then the local government.
Just to help you, sorry to jump in here, because the president's speech, we could find out from his speech that he has disbursed 570 billion to states.
I saw it.
For intervention, support.
Yeah.
I saw it.
If there's any place we are talking about citizens trying to hold their government at the local level, at any level to account, citizens should be turning their attention to what the governors did with the 570 billion naira that was shared for them.
To an extent, you would also fault the president. When you disburse such amounts of money, did you also
is there an accountability?
Citizens aware that such amounts of money was released to the state government?
Exactly.
You see, that is where I was trying to address. I think the society groups need a lot of job. They need to do a lot of job along that line. Society group, the media. We also need to enlighten the citizens, Nigerians, that they also elected their governors, their local government chairman, to better their lives. during the campaign, they went around all the local government, all the wards to campaign, and they promised them so many things and all that. So now they're in power. What are they doing? You see, look at it this way. Every month, the three tiers of government, I'm talking about the federal, state, and local government, they come to Abuja and they share their allocations. Federal government will have their own. The federal government institution will have their own, the state government and the local government. So, the question we should be asking, can't we also engage the governors? The money they collect, the internal revenue generated they collect, what are they doing with it? The same with local government, what are they doing with it? Are we holding them accountable? The answer is no. So why focusing on the federal government?
Alone.
Check it. Every month, some governors collect as much as 800 million naira as security votes. Meanwhile,
What do they do with
meanwhile, you have insecurities across the country. Because the question is, you ask yourself, what is the federal government, what is the government doing with 800 million naira that is collecting as security vote?
Exactly.
Why must it also depend on the federal government alone to address issue of insecurity in your state, where you collect almost about 800 million naira every month? If you go to local government, they also have their own security vote. So the question you ask yourself, what are they doing with the huge amount of money they are collecting for security votes? So the point I'm making is that it is our time we start calling the governors, we must begin to hold them accountable. Look at the federal government. They are behaving as if they are for a Christmas. Every month, you share your allocations.
You don't
have your
them.
own. The governors have their own. The government have their own. So why are you now using your own? Give it the governors. No, I'm not talking about state government. They are not giving the money to the state government. They are giving to the governors.
To the governors. So that's the problem.
Just recently, the federal government disbursed about 570 billion naira. Not million. It's billion. To 36 state governors. And I can assure you that money will not get to the government purse. It will not get to the local government purse. So the federal government should start behaving like as if they are for Christmas. And that's why people believe that, the federal government, they have solution to all our problems. So whenever there's a crisis in the country, I'm talking of economic crisis, they tend to focus on the federal government, not knowing that the state government also own them responsibility to better their lives.
So I think it all still
so
boils
I think
down.
that is the problem.
And
it all still boils down to accountability. What structures have you put in place to ensure that the monies disbursed are properly used for the people in the state, for instance? So if there is no accountability, so it's easier for corruption to thrive.
So an accountability is actually an integral part of the good governance we are talking about.
Exactly.
You cannot even have good governance without being accountable.
It's one of the strong indicators of good governance.
Let me bring in something here. I know that we have the Office of the Accountant General for the Federation. At the state we also have, and we have at the local government level. So when the auditor at the local government level, you get to see Auditor General's reports at the federal level, how much of that do we see at the state level and at the local government level? Because if citizens are not aware of monies that have been disbursed to both the state and the local government, it is the job of the auditor
to
audit. But when we don't get to see such reports, how then would citizens engage with their representative on that report?
Let's not even go to the auditors. The auditors is appointed by the governors. So you cannot go and audit your government post and say the government stole money. You will not even have the temerity to do that. The point we should make is what is happening to the state houses of assembly. That is the organ in the state that is charged with the responsibility of scrutinizing the activities of the executive house of government at the state level. So, and they do, sometimes they ought to be carrying out oversight functions to make sure that the money that is distributed or that is allocated to ministries and agencies are properly used in the interest of the people. But the question is just yourself, do they have the audacity, do they have the temerity to be able to do that? Most of the houses of assembly are in the pocket of the governors.
Yes.
At the national level, you could see that some element of oversight functions. National assembly are summoning ministers, head of agencies every time.
Then what about the roles of the Attorney General of the state?
We know at the state level, you don't find it.
We know very well that this is a very big problem because most of them are subservient. But we'll come back to this discussion. Let's open up the phone lines. But when we come back, we also talk about the human rights aspect of this from your angle and from the angle that journalists were attacked. And we'll find out what the Nigerian Guild of Editors are doing about the attack on journalists, and how do we even where do we go from here of journalists being attacked in a democratic setting.
Okay, please follow us on our social media platforms at Official Primorg. Primorg again is spelled Primorg. And remember that we are streaming live on Facebook at Official Primorg.
I remember that this program is interactive. The WhatsApp phone line to send your message is 09022656167. That is 09022656167. This number is for messages only. Please begin to send your messages now to 09022656167. And we want you to contribute. What do you make of the hashtag and bad governance in Nigeria protest? Do you think the government has gotten the message? Why do you think good governance remains a big problem in Nigeria? Did the president's address following hardship protest meet your expectations? And which of the demands put forward by the protesters would you want government to expressly address? I think we have a caller. Hello, your name and where you're calling from?
Good morning. My name is Chukwudi from Papa.
Okay, Chukwudi, make your contribution. Please, can you keep it in 1 minute?
Okay, my contribution is the coming from federal government, because when you get the money, you have to manage that person. Not that you share the money, you disperse the money, you don't know whether they are using the money or not. So the federal government is supposed to be taking actions on the money that they are allocated to state government. Because when the state government misuse the money, the whole of them will come to federal government. So like what is happening now? Every eyes is on federal government. So they're supposed to be taking actions on those money they used to send to the state government. Your contribution, thank you.
All right, thank you so much for joining us. Hello, your name and where you're calling from? Okay, let's hear you.
Yeah, my contribution is what I think if the government can share money allocated to the state government, and the state allows the money to do what it's supposed to do, and if the government wants to investigate and see how they're working on how they get that share. If they don't give money to them, and the reason why they all cost, they can't even share it to the people that need to give the money to. So how do they give them the money, and when they have the money, they have what they're doing with the money, they should go to their family, their own business, their own personal use, and if they think the money is like that. So I think if the state government is sharing the money just called now to the state, but also the federal government should go to them and see what they're using money for. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I know that the state governments are sovereign. They to an extent, they cannot be, they cannot hold the state down. Well, I'll let you intervene on that very soon. Let me take this call again. Hello, your name and where you're calling from?
Yeah, my name is Somebody Prince. Good morning.
All right, let's hear you in 1 minute. Your contribution.
Well, you are asking if we achieve our aim on the N5 government process.
Yes, please.
Well, for me, the protest really did not achieve the aim of Nigeria, but at least their voice has been heard.
But that's a progress.
Yeah, it's a progress. Government have known that Nigeria is no longer closer any longer.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that we have right to demand our rights. You know why we couldn't achieve our aim? Because before the protest, government has already said that the protest will be violent protest. So my worry is that the day of the protest, those that are supporting government should have waited. After those against the bad government have finished their protest, that is when the federal government should start their own. Not on the day of the protest. You're using quotas to bring the anti-protester on the same day. So automatically, they will never achieve their end. Definitely there will be a violence, there will be looting, because as it stands now, we don't even know if those that are hired against the anti-protester are the ones vandalizing things, or the protester itself. So you should allow the protesters to finish their protest so that are against the government, before you now organize those that are in support of the government to protest. But after you not help anyone that goes out of the line, you can hold them responsible. You get that right. Now you don't even know those who are responsible. And government are claiming that those that are protesting, their sponsors, they have arrested them, they have frozen their accounts. What about this?
All right. all what I will say is that...
What about the sponsors of the anti-protesters?
So
who is going to arrest them? Who is going to close in their camp?
Are you with me? So the government didn't also claim responsibility of sponsoring the people who were anti-protest. So we cannot even put it on them. But you can. It's up to you to speculate.
Yeah, what I'm saying is this. Let us put it in clear. Government can never admit that they're the one that sponsored the anti-protesters. But it was people that sponsored them. Because they asked us to stay in the stadium. Why those that are the anti-protesters? You are bringing them with costa bus. You want those ones to move freely in the streets of Abuja in support of the government. When those are protesting against the hardship in the land are to catch in a stadium.
All right.
So even the government never claim responsibility. All of us will have somebody sponsor them. So if we can identify the
okay, thank you so much.
The government should also
so
identify the sponsors of those that were against the protest. Well, let's get to Dr. Iyobosa. We know that it is the responsibility of the media in the Constitution to hold the government accountable to the people and also to sensitize the citizens. But unfortunately, during the protest, there are reports that media and personnel were attacked. How would you react to that? And what is the Guild of Editors doing in that regard?
Well, it's very unfortunate, quite unfortunate. Like you said, section 22, I'm sure the law is there, of the 1999 Constitution, spell out vividly the role of the media. And it says the press shall at all time, it didn't say once in a while, it said shall at all time hold public officers accountable. And that is it's a constitutional matter. It's like, I keep on saying, it's not a busybody kind of responsibility. It's a constitutional matter. Apart from the legislators, the executive arm of the judiciary, the press is also assigned a constitutional role in our society, along with other international instruments, that guarantee press freedom and what have you. So it was expected that, like security agencies were going about doing their job, that journalists will also go about performing their responsibilities, reporting what is happening during the protests, informing the public about what is happening, the implication of what is happening, and all that. So that was the responsibility of journalists. At the end of the day, some of our colleagues were brutalized by the police, to the extent that they were even using live bullets, according to some report that we got. Even though the police,
they're still denying it.
So even though the police denying it. Why would they deny? Police even said they didn't even use live ammunition. If they use ammunition, how come about 30 persons were reported killed across the countries? So who killed those people? Who killed them?
Thunder.
Did they kill themselves? So I mean, I am saying that the police didn't do very well as far as managing this protest is concerned. I heard IG saying yesterday that they never used live bullets.
Come on.
For me, that was a bloody lie. There's no better way to put it. It was a bloody lie. So yes, in Lagos,
IG has information that he's in a vantage position to.
I'm saying that
we can't say that because it was
lied. Let me just put that way.
It was recorded.
I have many of my colleagues, my staff in Arise TV. They are photographers. The cameramen are just who were brutalized.
Yes.
So don't just go
the
there.
Journalists who reach out to me, the NGE chairman.
As one of our, we documented those about 16 journalists who were harassed. In fact, the photographer is the chairman of the FCT NUJ chapel in Abuja here.
In Abuja here.
It was brutalized. The camera was seized and eventually it was released.
Even his phone was collected.
The point we're making is that at the point the president of Nigerian Guild of Editors, Anaba, who happened to be the editor of Vanguard newspaper, was in touch with the IG and telling what kind of nonsense is this? I should call your men to order.
Yes.
So I am saying that the police didn't behave very well. They were not professional in managing. In fact, I was even shocked that even the military and the SSS were more professional than the police. So the point I'm making is that yes, I agree. In any conflict, journalists will also be affected, just like what is happening in the Middle East, the war between Israelis and Gaza. As at about 2 days ago, about 161 journalists have been killed. Who are reporting the war. 161 journalists were killed. Not even brutalized, they were killed. So the point I'm making is that in any conflict there will be that kind of something. But we expect the police, to also recognize the constitutional responsibility of journalists to do their job without any hindrance.
Harassment.
So
Let me
harassment.
But we should ask ourselves. Sorry, I'm sorry. We should ask ourselves questions. Why is it difficult for police or government to allow journalists to actually do their job? What is a big deal there? If you have nothing to cover, then you should allow them to do their jobs. You have not. For instance, there are reports that said that the police started throwing tear gas at people who were protesting peacefully. So that is where the issue started from. So you started to you got them, you caused them, you be the first to put them under tension, where then people have to react. We are human beings, for crying out loud. So I'm not doing anything. You throw a tear gas at me. What is that supposed to be? What's that supposed to be?
Now let me shock you. You know that there was going to be a conflict between, because I was there, because I also go out to cover the event. There was going to be a conflict between the police and the army and the civil defense and the secretariat. That road leading to National Assembly. The police were throwing tear gas at the military guys who were stationed in their armor car.
Can you imagine?
And those guys, they don't know how to manage tear gas. And when they went to that, they said, stop this nonsense we are doing. We are not protesters now. Why throwing tear gas at us? In fact, the police were even throwing tear gas at the military and the civil defense.
Can you imagine?
And it was going to result to clash between two of them. So if police throw tear gas at the military and civil defense, what happened to ordinary journalists or other people who were protesting? So what I'm saying is
it was a mistake.
It was not a mistake. It was
So it's part of the bad management.
Because they are properly trained.
Let me
you're talking about ordinary journalists.
Yes, let me take one or two calls and come back to you. Hello, your name and where you're calling from.
I was there.
Yes.
Your name and where you're calling from, please.
I'm calling from Abuja.
What's your name?
Sunday.
Okay, Sunday, let's hear you in 1 minute.
What I want to ask there, the way police carry this protest for head, where they know what more to protest at all. And they ask police get their own market schedule. I feel that they get where they say, if they go say that the police will set this thing. I've been obey before last complaint, because when the police they carry this protest for head, like say if the country better, them to no go benefit from them. I don't say no police when they pay 10 million naira. And even if they pay them this 10 million naira, now still the domestic consumption will still pass the whole money. So why they can't carry for head like say we don't? Because I remember also from National Stadium, we on the march, they guide us, they move everything, they go well. As we just enter that central area around that secretary, the next day begin the shoot tear gas, begin the harass people. I come the answer. This protest will be clear. Don't be say we did against the government. When I make government make life better for everybody. If life better for me, it go better for you. If they begin the sell right for market 40,000, at least policeman collect $100,000. He go fit buy half back. Whenever they sell price 50,000 naira back, the police collect $100,000 salary. He go buy half back. Give your family. Now they sell price 50,000. People come down to 500 and policeman go benefit. Instead of allow us.
Okay.
Kind of. So that we do a protest successfully. The government will not do less. Life not easy for us. But when they come up like even they cover those anti-protesters, or even the people who they protest for my right and the rights of police.
Okay.
And then they say life not better for them.
Okay.
So I don't know why they come up like we don't commit the worst crime.
I'm telling you.
All right, Sunday, thank you for joining us. Let me get the responses of my guests.
Okay.
Because let's look at how do we even where do we take this protest? Well, how do we move from where we are today to a better place? How do we entrench good governance in our system? You will respond. Let me just take this one last call and have you people respond. Hello, your name and where you're calling from?
Good morning.
Yeah, good morning. Your name and where you're calling from? Okay, let's hear you in 1 minute. right. All right. The president returned the subsidy.
There was something the caller before him said that we should actually take note of. When we saw anti-protesters, people were protesting that other people should not protest. When we saw them out, we saw that there was no form of use of tear gas. We saw that they were well protected. That tells us simply that everything that happened from August 1st, if you had seen any altercation, maybe from the south and in the FCT, were all calculated. Were all calculated attempts to undermine the legitimacy of what the people were trying to do and what the people were trying to bring out, to the fore. And if you see why I agree with him that the protest is a success, is that before the protest even began, you could see that people were running helter-skelter. You were seeing information, maybe whether they are true or not, that some governors were leaving the country, House of Reps members were leaving the country. It showed that they know that the people have the power. So the people should not relent in understanding the fact that they have the power. If you are going to change bad governance, it's by insisting that there has to be accountability. And the only way you can do accountability is by engaging the government. You need to continue engaging the government. And you brought some pertinent issues. The local government and the governors, they need to be on hot seats. That is what the people need to do. You need to put them on hot seats and demand accountability from them. And stop collecting these slippers and 1,000 naira 5. These things are temporal. They are not satisfactory. They will not satisfy you in the long term. But imagine a state, for instance, where the roads are properly tarred, where there is electricity, where there is water, where there is, for instance, agriculture is actually how do I put it? Is protected because there are some states where farmers are not even allowed to go to their farms because of the handwritings, or should I say workings of bandits in quotes. So if governors do what they are supposed to do, protect your people and give them the kind of security that they deserve, then you will see that things will begin to change. And the people are very critical. Journalists are also very critical in achieving this in Nigeria.
Dr. Iyobosa, there's a lot of points for you to pick up and a lot of summary for you to do here from our interaction, from the callers, from Barrister Mojirayo.
Yeah, let me start with the police. We should not, let's be fair, let us not generalize the action of the police. In some states, they manage the protests very well. In Lagos, in Benin, in Delta, and some other states. But in some other states, they were very brutal. And I think we should hold the police authorities in those states responsible about what they did. So going forward, I think police should also acquire more training on how to manage protests. Look at what happened in UK. Let me use UK as an example. In spite of the violent thuggery that is happening there, no soul has been killed. Instead, about 21 police, as of yesterday when I read it in a Daily Mail, were injured. You could see the way they were managing it. And at the end of the day, they were injured, but not one soul was lost. What they are doing is, those who were involved in this violent thuggery, they arrest them and take them to court. And that's what the police should be doing. So I think they should acquire more training. They should also,
besides training, do we have
it goes back to the IGP. It goes back to the IGP table.
Yes.
What are you doing? Because I've had the opportunity to actually speak with police in camera, and then we should ask that question. Some policemen use their salaries to buy uniform.
They don't even have the equipment to even manage it.
When you go to the barracks, you see how terrible the barracks look like.
And another issue I also want to take is the issue of holding. Somebody saying that why will you hold state accountable when the federal government has removed fuel subsidy? Now, let me also shock you. Do you know fuel subsidy is back?
Of course.
It's back. It shows that the federal government is ashamed to even say it. Now, if you look at the cost of the imported PMS, the cost of landing that the MacArthur was calculated the other day is about 1,200 naira per litre. So if the MacArthur were to add their own profit and everything, I'm sure by now Nigeria will be buying a litre for 1,800 naira officially. So subsidy is back. It's because what we ought to gain by removing the first subsidy has been wiped out completely by the floating of the naira. So much so that our naira has no value again.
It's a problem.
The Minister of Finance just proposed yesterday that this year Nigeria will spend 3.9 trillion naira for fuel subsidy alone. So which means that the
subsidy
is back.
It's back.
So let us not. People are saying they should restore fuel subsidy. So you know that fuel subsidy is back.
So in all this, how do we?
But they're even paying more now than what Buhari was paying when he was in power.
Let me ask you a question. You said that we should hold the police authorities responsible. Do you think that if we begin to hold the officer who committed an act against citizens responsible instead of the institution responsible, that the officers will conduct themselves?
If you are suing somebody for abusing your right now, you're not going to sue individual police. I'm sure the lawyer will attest to that. You're going to sue the police as an institution.
So
because it's working on behalf of that institution.
Even when we try to identify
you can do that.
That was involved, I've noted what the police they do. They remove him from a particular district and put him in another district because there is no accountability. Also,
they will tell you that it's acting on behalf of the police authority.
Every time, if you cannot punish him as an individual, as an officer, and you use the state money to pay for his conduct, then he will not be accountable to you.
Of course, that's the problem.
That's the
problem.
That's the reality in Nigeria.
But even in a state of war, there are conventional way that people also, the
rules of engagement.
Rules of engagement. Even police. Even I've seen our colleagues, journalists who cover war. They are embedded. They wear a military uniform. They cover it, and they recognize them as journalists. Even when you are targeting your enemy, you are careful that you should not target the media, who is also discharging his constitutional responsibility.
So as we wrap up, because our time is fast spent, somebody is calling us. I don't know if I should take this one last call.
Hello.
Good morning. Your name and where you are calling from?
My name is Ikechuku. I'm calling from Babolaga.
Ikechuku, you have 40 seconds to make your contribution. We are
okay, just to say that we've achieved much, even the name alone, and bad governance is enough achievement. The people that are ruling us, they know that their leadership is not good. For the moment I need to protest it for one day, there's no other achievement that's greater than that. And what are we expecting for? That we should end bad governance. And I think the message is loud and clear to them.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us with your thoughts. Let's get to your concluding remarks, human rights lawyer Mojira Ogunlana and the General Secretary of Nigerian Guild of Editors, Dr. Uwesa Owujaren. Let me start from you, Mojira.
Okay,
in 30 seconds.
Yes, 30 seconds, because I just said, from everything we've said now, it's not possible for us to exhaust the issue of Nigeria in 1 hour.
How do we entrench
But
good governance?
the truth is this: for entrenching good governance, the people cannot go to sleep. You must be bumper to bumper with all these politicians, whether at the local strata, the state, and then the federal. Everywhere, you have to be on their necks and hold them accountable.
My question is that Nigerians, I'm talking of Nigerians, must take back this country from the political elite who want to destroy this country. And the only way we can continue to do that is by continuing to hold them accountable, is by being active in participating in what is doing. We can do that through so many processes. We must engage them. Let them see us as their masters, not the other way around. We recruited them, even though some of them ring their ways into the elected position. We recruited them. So they are answerable to us. And if they are not behaving very well, we must have a way to punish them for their bad behavior. And the way we can do that is to actively participate in what is happening in Nigeria. There was a time where we were very passive, but now we should be more active in what is happening in our society. And that's the only way we can right the wrong in our society.
The word is clear. End your docility. Be active participants in our democracy and in every other civil issue. Stand up to it and be a good citizen.
I must agree with the submission of our guests in terms of citizens being active, and they need the right information for them to actively engage with their representatives and also their governors at the state level.
That is how we must
end the program at this point. Please visit our news website, primorgnews.org. That is primorgnews.org for all the details of our reports and interviews. Visit our website, primorg.org, to get all the information about Primorg.
And you can watch our videos on Primorg TV, our YouTube channel. Please subscribe to get reminders when we have a new post. We appreciate our guest, human rights lawyer Mojira Ogunlana. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much.
And the General Secretary, Nigerian Guild of Editors, Dr. Yebosa Ujaren. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for being there, for listening to us, and participating in today's program. Public Conscience has the support of the John D. and Catherine T. MacArthur Foundation, committed to building a more just, verdant, and peaceful world. Get more information about the foundation on its website, macfound.org.
Join us again here next week for another episode of Public Conscience. And remember to follow us on Facebook, X, formerly Twitter, @OfficialPrimorg. I am Adaobi Obiabumo.
Remember that birth registration and birth certificates are free if your child is under 18. Help stop the corruption in birth registration, and do not pay for birth certificate. Also remember that you can give us information or hints about corrupt acts through our phone at 09022656167 or info@primorg.org. I am Chidozie Obunna.